Just when were you in Burkina Faso, Holland?
I was there from September 71 to October 73, about, or actually, yeah, maybe December 73 when I finally left.
What was it that attracted you to Burkina Faso? How did you end up there?
Well, when I was in college, there was a 5-year BA program where you would take off a year and find yourself a job in some underdeveloped country. And I had thought about that. I had a lot of friends who were in that program. And I remember waking up one morning at school thinking I was all alone in an African village, and it was very frightening. And I decided not to apply for the program because I wasn't ready. And then when I graduated, it occurred to me that the timing was right and I was ready. And then 3 months after that, I woke up in a little African village in a start in the middle of the night, saying to myself, it's time to get up. If you don't get up and finish this paper, you're never going to graduate. So it had a nice kind of circular flow to it. And of course then I woke up and I saw I was in this little mud hut in an African village, and I had graduated, and I didn't really have to worry about things like that anymore. So when I was applying to the Peace Corps, I applied to, I asked to be sent to a agricultural program in former French colony in Africa, and that's where they sent me. I ended up in a program called Aménagement des Bas-Fonds, which was a pretty ambitious program to grow rice in lowland areas.
Where were you?
I started out in Gauquin, which is halfway between Coupéla and Tencotogo, and then moved to Tencotogo the next year, and drove around to little villages in the area trying to get rice projects going.
Now 15, 16 years later, do you still have dreams like your old dream that got you there?
No, I don't have those dreams anymore. I have different dreams now.
What do you remember best about being there?
Well, I still have some fairly striking visual memories that just I didn't take a lot of pictures while I was there, and I think maybe as a result I have stronger visual memories. But the one that always comes to mind first is riding my moped down on the road between Coupéla and Tencotogo on a sunny, bright, probably hot day, with a road that was lined with these big trees that the French planted in very straight rows, which were maybe not very African, but were very nice. And when I have this vision, it's a vision of real calmness and peace and freedom out in the open country, out in an area that's not burdened by the urban problems that we have in American cities. And I guess it sort of highlights the difference between being poor in America and being poor in Africa, that the people in Burkina are much poorer than the people who are poor in the cities I've lived in the States, but they're also much freer. Part of it is just because they live outside most of the time, so that having a nice house is not that important to them, and it's not so depressing to not have a nice place. You live outside, the nice trees, you have a sense of openness and I think freedom that's very refreshing and really cheerful. I also have strong memories of eating millet and drinking in the village that next up to the one I first lived in, where I used to go up there every market day, probably every market day, and sit around with the chief of the village and the agricultural school teacher and the local agricultural agent and drink Dolo and Well, actually, I think we always used to eat a goat's insides, stomach, lungs, liver, intestines, which I liked a lot. And I would go up there for their various celebrations, such as the harvest, when you would beat the millet. You would get, what you do is you cut a branch off of a tree at the fork, so that gives you a handle that you can use to beat the millet, and then you spread out the freshly harvested millet on mats in the hot sun and spend a couple hours thrashing it, or threshing it, I guess. And you beat the millet and then you kind of throw it up in the air to get rid of the chaff. And of course, while you're doing that, you have drums in the background beating kind of rhythmically to don't exactly beat to the rhythm of the drums, but it just gives you a feeling of more celebration and work. And once or twice they had me do the drums, and everybody naturally laughed because I never did get the rhythm of the drums down, not even close. But it was a very warm and friendly experience to be part of that, even if I couldn't do it right, and even if my Mori was terrible. It was still a real participatory thing, and it was hard work. When I did that, I was, in October or November, it's still hot because it's always hot in Burkina, and you do it in the hottest, you do it in, mid-morning, but it goes on for a long time, and then you take a break and have something to eat and drink a lot of Dolo, and if they have any. Actually, I think one day I was up there and we drank, I think we probably had 4 different kinds of alcoholic beverages there: Dolo, and some kind of mead, and some whiskey, and some bourbon, and just really a lot of stuff. So I would get tired, drunk, and hot all at the same time.
And that was fun.
And that was fun, that's right.